Hey everyone, Ryan here with Black Rain Ordnance. Today we're going to be introducing how we change out our GI standard trigger to the Black Rain Ordnance upgraded drop-in trigger. And this will be a series of tutorials and videos that we'll do for as much for your information and knowledge, but also so you can see it from the manufacturer how we do it, right? So the very first thing that we do with our firearm is that we ensure that we have it clear, no ammunition present, and we'll just look down here, ensure there's nothing in the chamber. Obviously there's nothing in the magazine well, and so we're gonna go ahead and take off the upper because we need to access the trigger. If for some reason your takedown pins don't just come out like this, you can just take a Tapco and then a non-marring hammer and just tap those out and tap those out. And then once we get it out, we're just gonna remove the upper completely. Now in order to fully access the rest of the trigger, we're just gonna invert this because we have to take off the pistol guard, or the pistol grip, excuse me. Right? So this is just your MOE grip. So we're just gonna take off the cover, and then we have a container right here that we're gonna hold everything in, just because a lot of this stuff is under spring tension. So whenever I access this with the T-handle, understand that there is a spring and a detent in here, and so I just have to be cognizant that I don't lose those things, just because it's, once you get them down here, it's sometimes hard to find. So as I bring this out, and once it gets loose, right, put this back in here, I'm just gonna ensure on this other side where the spring is at, that as I'm taking this pistol grip off, I have good control of the spring so that I don't lose it. And then I have one detent that I have to get rid of in order to take out the selector switch. So sometimes if it doesn't just fall out like that, if you have a surface that you can do this, you can just knock it out like so. And then that's what it looks like, right? Now I can go ahead and take my selector switch out, and I have full access to take my GI trigger out. It doesn't really matter if the hammer is down, if it's retained, doesn't really matter. What I do need to take out is the anti-rotational pins. This again is where my non-marring hammer will come into play. You can take your 1/16 out. We're just gonna loosen this a little bit and run it through. Now once I run it through, I obviously need to be considerate that it's under spring tension, so I have to hold that tension here. Otherwise it may just go fly up like that and I lose whatever I lose. Okay, so I'm taking the hammer off, taking the anti-rotational pin off. Now I need to be also cognizant that as I take the lower one off, my disconnect right here, as well as my trigger. All right. Typically you'll have that spring that's underneath here. If it's been worn out or something like that, it may fall out, but typically it's gonna stay in there, okay? Now that I've done that, I can go ahead and install my drop-in trigger. It comes with the K&S stabilizing pins, so it's got the full kit for the K&S stabilizing pins. The K&S stabilizing pins lock it from the outside, so occasionally there's a probability that the anti-rotational pins inside on your GI trigger could walk out as they get worn. The K&S stabilizing pins just ensure that they can't walk out, right? So it keeps it contained, the internal contained from the external, right? So I'm gonna drop it in there so that I have it. And then one thing that I need to ensure with my drop-in trigger is, if you look on the bottom here, I need to ensure that the feet are flush, right? In order to ensure that the feet are flush, I just have to go ahead and open this up. So just release it by pressing the trigger here. And then I'm gonna rotate these legs up on the spring so that I can access it from the inverted side, right? So as you look at it right here on the 1/16 Allen wrench, there's two holes on either side. These are what I need to set the feet for. I need them to just be flush because I'm going to precisely set them once I get it into the receiver, all right? So I'm just gonna do that real quick and get it set. Get the other side set. And then once I have it set, I'll reset the hammer. There we go. So I'll just reset the hammer back there, and I'm literally going to just drop it in, all right? Now it's not going to precisely line up, all right? But I am gonna go ahead and set the K&S stabilizing pins to it, all right? When I set the K&S stabilizing pins into it, It doesn't matter whether, you know, this male end is on the lower end or the upper end. It doesn't matter because it's going to put it together the way it needs it to be put together. But I do need to line up my holes, right? So I can do that relatively simply. And again, if I need some assistance, I can take my non-marring hammer and I can go ahead and push that through if I need to, but you shouldn't get a whole lot of resistance for it. And then the last one I'm just gonna set in here, grab my selector switch, insert it in here just so that I have that already set and I'm not gonna forget about it. And then I'm going to take my K&S stabilizing pins, and I've got 4 parts here. All right, I've got my set screws, and then I've got my pins. And if you'll look, you'll see the channel that's on that. That obviously goes on the male end part where the channel goes. I don't need to be so concerned about lining everything up just yet, because as I put this together, it'll do it itself. So general area, I'm going to grab my T10 Torx bit. I'm going to ensure that I am at 8 inch-pounds, no more than 12 inch-pounds. And when we set this, we can also set the drop-in trigger anywhere between 3.5 single stage, 4.5 single stage, or 3.5 pound two stage, right? So right now it's in the configuration of a 3.5 pound stage. If I needed to change that after I get this set, I can open this up, and right where you'll see the set screw on top is where I would adjust that, right? We don't recommend anything less than 3.5. Anything less than 3.5, you're playing with tolerances, depending on your level of a shooter, that you may not want to play with. So we definitely don't recommend anything less than 3.5. You can put it there, but we don't recommend that, right? So then I'm going to come over on the other side after I put this in, right? And I shouldn't have too much resistance, but I'm going to just go ahead and repeat it over on the other side over here as well. There we go. Now, as you're seeing it, it's going to make sense that I need on one side the T10 Torx, and then on the other side the T10 Torx as well. All right, so I'm just getting it started right now, giving myself enough room to kind of get in there so it'll set. And then I'm going to take my T10 Torx and just start bringing it in. Now, at a certain point, you're going to spin the other side, right? So this is where if you do have the option of a secondary one, you're just plugging it in so that you can get this set, and eventually we should get right there. So if you didn't hear that, let me do it again. All right, so that is the proper torque. It's set at 8. And I don't need to go any further. If I do go any further, you'll start to see deformation along the line right here. It'll start bending, and obviously we don't want that to happen, right? That's as easy as it is, guys. Now we're gonna go ahead and finish it, putting it back together. So I've got to invert this back over because I have to insert my detent over here. Drop that in. I'm gonna take this on my pistol grip. I have a hole right here on my pistol grip that I'm gonna put my spring in. And I'm just gonna guide that down into it, right? So I want to ensure that I guide it down in there correctly. Then I'm gonna come back over here with my T-handle, my screw, guide it down into the hole. And then as I torque this, all right, there's not a specific torque setting, but what you can do is if you over torque this, your safety selector switch will be difficult to manipulate the way that you need it to manipulate. So very last thing that we do is a functions test. So I'm just going to functions test this right here. When we do functions test this, obviously we want to ensure that the selector switch works correctly, but we're also not going to just let this fly forward. So as I press the trigger, I'm just going to ride it to the forward. I'm going to hold this to the rear because I want to ensure that I have correct reset right there, and I hear everything that I need to hear. You can do it to your heart's content as you want, but that is exactly it. And then I'm going to test it on safe, and I'm going to ensure that it does not fire on safety. Comes back off, good to go. All right. Last thing, putting in the upper receiver. Come back in here, and you're just going to take the takedown pins, push it through. If I wanted to do one final check, I'm going to do a functions test now that we've put everything together to ensure that we have put everything together, right? Last thing, don't forget this cover. There we go. All right, so functions test, bring it to the rear to charge it, selector switch to fire, press and hold the trigger to the rear, charge it one more time. I'm listening for the reset. I hear it, good to go. Put it back on safe. And that is the complete installation for the drop-in trigger, or if you're replacing a GI trigger with another drop-in trigger, you know now how to do that. So we appreciate your time. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We always appreciate feedback. Our RMA department or us down here at Shooter Development Institute would be more than happy to assist you. So thanks, have a good day. Appreciate it.